Okay, so to get started, I would suggest that we just let you go around and let everybody introduce themselves. Everyone that's here, except for Molly, is a poet in this book,
Except you.
and me, right? I'm not either. You don't want to read my attempts at poetry. So if we could, let's just start with Ricker maybe and go left to right, and let everybody just introduce yourself, who you are, where you live, whatever you'd like to say about yourself.
Well, thank you, Alec. Thank you, Gabby, for doing this. As usual, it's been a kind of a highlight for me because I'm so far away in Indonesia. And I've been living here now for 14, almost 15 years. So I'm really not in touch very much with only a couple of people in the United States. My whole life has shifted here, and I'm one of a kind here. I'm the only Caucasian that I ever see on this side of Surabaya, which is on the island of Java, and the Javanese people are the majority of people, and Islam is 85% majority. But my wife is Chinese, and the Chinese are very, very powerful here, as they are all over Asia. And even though they're only 2% of the population, they control over 90% of the economy.
Damn.
So I'm a tutor. I teach English, and I teach English here with a group of architects in a business, and I teach in Japan and in China. I have a lot of private students in China, and I write and I paint. And I've been with Mudflat Press. Well, I met Alec in 1994, and we've been down the road together ever since that time. They've helped me tremendously with my getting my work out into the world. I've got, I think, 15 books on my Amazon author page. And I'll just say that I'm going to read today a little bit, but I don't want to go on too far. So let's go to the next person.
Okay,
That's you.
oh, okay, we're going. It's gonna look different for everybody's screen possibly, so we'll just do the best we can. I'm Gabby Clayton. I am co-publisher and editor with Alec of Mudflat Press. Alec and I met and got together 50 years ago, and met in New York City, where, among other things, we were working with an organization that published an alternative weekly newspaper that Alec was the editor of and I worked with. And we wound up moving to his hometown in Mississippi, where we published a weekly newspaper and then a monthly magazine, and then finally Mississippi Arts and Letters, which is how we met Larry and Jess, and I don't think any of the others of you who are here right now.
Well, David had
David,
a poem published.
Yep.
That's
okay.
right.
And we've been in Olympia since 1988, and I studied drawing and painting and film and animation in Mississippi and then here. And then I got a master's degree in counseling psychology because I didn't think I was going to be able to support myself with a painting degree. So I wound up practicing as a counselor until last September, a year ago, and retired from that, and am just focusing on Mudflat Press as an editor and publisher, and also doing web design. And the poem that's in this book is the only poem that I've written in half a decade, because I stopped writing poetry. But that's enough about me for right now, and that's it.
Okay, so I'm Alec Clayton, married to her, co-producer, editor, owner of Flat Press. most of the people that are in this anthology are poets that we met when we were publishing Mississippi Arts and Letters in 84 and 85. Larry was our poetry editor, and he introduced us to David and Jess and Jack Butler and a few other people, Johnny Wink. And those were the first people we invited to be in this anthology. And then we invited other, mostly local friends from Olympia and Seattle area. And some like Ricker, who we met originally up here, but now is living in Indonesia. So you might notice throughout the talk that I keep wiping my nose with tissue. The reason is, a little over a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and since then I've had 5 surgeries. The cancer is gone, but one of the after effects is my nose runs constantly. It's very irritating. And Gabby keeps signaling me to hurry up. So I've said enough.
Look at Jess there. Looking
Is it
good.
My turn?
Yeah,
Sorry, I only see the other people. I'm Jess Simmons, and it's so good to see Larry. I've known Larry actually since I was 10 years old in '64, and my dad was at Mississippi College, and then we reconnected when I was at Millsaps in MC, which is really cool. I'm now living in Farmville, yes, Farmville, Virginia. Actually, we were the home of the vice presidential debate 4 or 5 years ago. Longwood, Farmville is the America's first 2-college town, which is kind of interesting. Longwood University and then the all-male Hampton-Sydney College. I'm just really happy to be here, and good to see you as well, David. I've got your books in my bookshelf, and so
Thank you, Jess.
I'm just excited about this. Thank you.
Yes, it's great.
I think Dan, you're next.
And
My name is Dan Penns.
oh,
I live in Olympia. I served 30 years in prison from 1981 to 2011. In 1990, I co-founded a publication called Prison Legal News, which still publishes today. And one of the poems that's in this book was in the very first issue of Prison Legal News, and I believe it's the only poem the publication ever published. Also in 1990, I met and married my wife, Heather. I met her at a Quaker worship group in the prison. And when I got out in 2011, I went to live with her in Seattle, and we attended a University Friends meeting in Seattle. And then in 2017, we moved here, and I started attending the Quaker meeting in Olympia. And that has been a rough ride. I went into prison bad, and I came out good. And there are people in the community that hold steadfastly to the idea that because I carry the label sex offender, and I am registered sex offender on the internet, that's something that I will have to carry for the rest of my life. But they insist that I be treated as if I were a dangerous person that people need to be protected from. That's very wearing on the soul. I started writing poetry in my teens, and I've continued throughout my life.
Thanks, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
On my screen next, if we go back the other way, is Larry next.
okay. Hi, I'm Larry Johnson. I grew up in Mississippi and met Alec and Gabby in 1984 when I volunteered to help with Mississippi Arts and Letters. And got even more involved with it than I thought I would, and it was all fun, and we had a good time. And they published some of my books, a couple that had never been published anywhere else, which should have been, but weren't. But they published them, and that was very nice. And I have taught in several colleges or universities, such as University of New Orleans, North Carolina State University, Lewisburg College, etc. These are my two books here, Veins and Alloy. You can find those on Amazon if you please. And if you don't have one, it would be great if you would buy one. Hey, hey. But Dave and I met when we were graduate students at University of Tennessee. And as Jess said, I met her quite a long time ago. I understand she had a great reading and discussion last night in Farmville.
Mhm.
So we were proud of her for that.
Thank you.
And what else? Cat lover of Roman history. Lover of poetry. So I'm ready to discuss it and read anything you like. Thank you. I was at the other discussion group too. This one is larger, so I hope it will be even more interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. People jumped around on the screen, so I think I'm gonna call Kathleen next.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's not evening it's not evening for all of us, not evening for you, Ricker. Anyway, yeah, I was at the last lit chat group, and that was pleasant, and I enjoyed it, and so I'm coming back for this one. I'm still working. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm a Quaker, so you know Gabby and Dan and Suzanne from Quaker Meeting, and a little bit for Lene, I think, maybe once or twice long ago. We did meet. So I'm not a poet or a writer. I do occasionally take pen to paper, and so I have one poem in this anthology. But overall, I mean, I'm certainly appreciative of poetry. I was an academic for 12 years and in clinical practice here in Olympia for over 40 years, and still at it. And that still seems to be going well, so that's good. I'm a birder, and as Dan said earlier on, I'm a Scrabble player. He and I have been recent competitors. That seems to be going well. So I think that's enough of me, and we'll move on, Gabby.
Okay, David.
Well, Larry can probably tell you the exact year that we met in Knoxville, Tennessee, going to the University of Tennessee Graduate School. What year was it, Larry?
1975.
You see, I told you he could. He would know. And so I've known him for a long time. I actually read a few of his poems before I met him, and I knew that I definitely wanted to meet him because the poems were so good. They were much better than those of anybody else that I knew at that time. So I've known Larry for a long time. And after living in Knoxville most of my life, I moved to San Antonio, where I lived for 14 years. And while I was in San Antonio, one evening I was able to meet Jess. And then in 96, I moved out to San Diego to be with my spouse, Michael. And so I've lived here ever since, love the weather most of the time. And I guess I should also say that after I retired, I discovered kind of by accident that I had a talent for singing that I didn't know I had. And so I have done cabaret singing. And this past October, I even did a show in New York. called, I'm going to do a series of shows under the title Revenge of the Baritones. So, and I have to say about Ricker's name, I love it because I had a college friend named Rickard Winstead. So, you know, the Ricker Windsor is just so close to that yeah, but he spelled his first name Ricord. But it's nice to see all of you this evening. I have my first two books, which were published by Storyline Press, have been reissued as one book called The Long Conversation, and that should be available. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, David. Lene, you're muted.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
We're just
Good.
doing introductions.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lene Reed. I am a local multimedia artist based in Olympia. And yeah, I'm happy to be here and included in this anthology.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anne,
Who's that?
you're muted and there you go. Nope. You're gonna unmute. I just unmuted
Oh,
you.
sorry, I didn't, I was asleep at the
Okay.
wheel. Hi, everybody. I'm Suzanne Simons. Really happy to be with you all. And I know Gabby and Kathleen and Dan from Quaker Meeting. I know Lene from Olympia Poetry Circles. And really happy to be included in this anthology. Just a little about me. My first career was as a journalist, and then somehow I became a professor, and now I'm professor emeritus at the Evergreen State College, which is a fancy way of saying I'm retired professor. And I taught poetry, Middle East studies, community studies, journalism, did some poetry in the prisons work at the men's prison in Shelton, and migrated from journalism to poetry very happily in midlife. And I just had, about the same time as Mudflat Verse came out, my first collection came out. It's called Road to Winnemucca. And it's available in local bookstores, or you can message me.
Great.
Hey.
I think that's everybody. We
Is
were,
Molly still with us?
no, she posted that she needed to go. So,
Okay,
and
well, since Molly had to leave early, I will tell everybody that she is a writer for Only Arts magazine, which I edit, and she is doing a story on Mudflat Verse that will come out pretty soon.
we figured out that Alec shouldn't write it and I shouldn't. So a little bit of joint interest there. So happily, Molly said she would write it. So people, we've invited our poet people to read, and I guess I want to see those of you who didn't take part last time first.
Yep.
So Jess, would you like to read first?
Oh, okay. Can I introduce it first?
You can
Sure.
do whatever you want.
Okay. So, the poem I want to read is called Good Old Proteges, and the story behind it is kind of mixed. Larry and David, I think, know this. My dad, Edgar Simmons, was a teacher at Mississippi College, and the poem really is about influences. And Larry was in the class, Jack Butler was in the class, Barry Hanna was in that class, John Freeman and Steve Owen, and many, many others. And Larry, you can help me with this, but as far as I know, Dad just brought this amazing world to these MC students, with just different influences. interestingly, over COVID, I wrote a literary biography about my dad and found out a lot of really cool things. One is that Barry Hanna was actually his secretary for a summer at Mississippi College, and they would go fishing a lot. And Barry actually typed the draft to Osiris at the roller derby. And I still hold this, that if anyone wants to know where Barry Hanna's writing style came, it came from Osiris at the roller derby. I'm totally convinced about that. Yeah, definitely. And then it's other influences too. Through Jack Butler, I met Larry Brown. He and I became really good friends. And then through Barry, interestingly enough, I've become really good friends with Donna Tartt. I was actually in a restaurant here in Farmville, and my daughter, who used to teach at Longwood University, she taught Spanish there. She said, "Don't turn around, but I think Donna Tartt is sitting behind you." And like in a nanosecond, I was standing at Donna's table, and I said, "I really would never impose on you. However, my dad taught Barry Hanna." And she said, "Who's your dad?" And I said, "Edgar Simmons." She said, "I know your dad." She said, "Sit down, sit down." And then she said, "No, I don't know him, but Barry talked about him all the time. So I feel like I know him." And that so influenced me that, so my dad in 1964, knowing, teaching Barry Hanna, and then it comes up. And so I'm able to meet Donna Tartt because of that. And she and I we had lunch in Charlottesville and different places. She's just an amazing writer, an amazing woman. So I went home thinking about the influences, and in my bookcase, I've got like all of Jack's books and Larry's books and David's books and Barry's. These just all of them. And so I was going through and just thinking about the influence that my dad had from 1964 all the way up to just to today. And this is called Good Old Proteges. I'm on a cell phone, so I'm just gonna read it here. So I hope I'm still in the frame. Good old proteges for Jack, Larry, John, and others. Slower and silver-haired, I searched my bookcases for poetry written by Mississippians who are now former Mississippians, fled to Northern California, Florida, or the grave. They were my father's creative writing students, bored and frustrated in the early 1960s at a Baptist Mississippi college, where my father, wearing a coat and thin tie before a blackboard, spoke of poetry and aesthetics, individuation and authenticity, and handed out purple mimeograph lyrics to Beatles songs that set each seated mind soaring. I sit now to read the poems they published as adults, as fathers, as grandfathers. Jack Butler's The Rabbit on the Highway, Sonetto for a Bent Nail, Song of the Cairo Syrup Man, The Binomial Theorem of Hope, Larry Johnson's Near East Abuchi, Mississippi, On a Bust of the Young Caligula, blues poem, Gene Sibelius Bags the Soviet Plane, 1948, John Freeman's Sunday's Frozen Pipes, The Trespasser, a Jungian Parable, Names in a Trailways Bus Station, The Death of the Rational Empiricist's Wife. Each reveals a heart and soul, root expanded into grad school, careers as teachers, as poets, just like my father, Driving to Biloxi, Unpublished Reflections of Machiavelli, At the Seed and Feed, Osiris at the Roller Derby. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
What struck me is that it's like when I went through everyone's poetry, all of them, and I do this too, you have poems that just definitely identify you as being from the South, from Mississippi. And then you have poems that also identify you as being pretty erudite. So it's a poem I really like a lot. So again, thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing it and for letting us publish. And that goes to all of you. Dan, how about you?
Well, if it's okay, I'd like to do one that I just wrote last week. It's not in the book.
Sure.
Sure.
It's called The Dark Ocean. I swim in the pain, submerged, surrounded and supported by it. I breathe it in, which means I'm drowning, yet I swim ever deeper into the dark. At the end of my world is a wall of light and glass. People who love me are on the other side, having come to share my pain. I see them standing there, dry from head to toe, breathing in hope and comfort, staring solemnly as I swim away. I cannot remember the last time I drew a breath of fresh air. Years go by. Years go by. And I'm certain that I know how to swim, and yet I'm drowning. And years go by. It's not a very happy poem, but it speaks to my condition of the last 5 or 6 years.
Thank you, Dan.
Dan,
Okay,
Dan, do you want to read one of the ones from the anthology?
yeah, well, you could do that too.
Hyde Cummings. Majestic sand castles, grain upon grain, until the whole transcends even mystery. Glistening, smooth lines and plains. Footprints in the sand leading up the beach to other callings. Castles of solemn tranquility to build. The tide creeps, washes away. Clean, wet sand.
Thank you, Dan.
And I have to duck out for a minute because I just declined a call from the microwave installer who's trying to set up a time for me tomorrow.
Okay, well, come back as soon as you can. Okay, David.
All right. I will. This particular poem from the anthology, Prophecy Looking Backward, was inspired by a quotation from Flaubert, and I don't remember now where I found this, but I simply ran across it somewhere, and that sparked the poem from about 10 years ago or so. And the quotation is, "History is prophecy looking backward." So the poem's called Prophecy Looking Backward. The world you're born into will largely disappear. You'll have this in common with most of the other people alive when you are. When you're young, your family will travel each year to the seaside, and nothing will please you more than the breaking waves. The pink hotel nearby will be torn down. The motel where you stay will be added on to and then demolished. Later, you'll live near the ocean, but rarely go there. The speech you hear when you're young will sweeten the rest of your life. Red buds will mean early spring, and pink and white dogwoods, the full April. You'll grow up putting vinegar on greens and salt on grapefruit. By 16, you'll have lived in 12 different houses. You will live in a time when friends will move far away. You will move far away too. Although you will lead a quiet life in the temperate zones, one of your friends and 5 acquaintances will be murdered. One moment of unexpected bliss will occur on an Oregon beach when a black Irish setter, wet from a splash in the river, will run to you despite the protestations of his owner and jump in your arms. In your teens, you will not, after all, kill yourself. Your 20s will be filled with sorrow and reading. You will know which brown-eyed stranger you ought to pursue. You'll be surprised how much of your 50s and 60s will be spent in dancing.
Nice.
Very good.
Thank you.
Prayer dancing especially.
At that time, yes.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
And we just got a note that Ricker has to leave at 7 our Pacific time, Ricker. You're muted.
Sorry, still have 25 minutes. So I don't mean to rush myself into it, but just so you know, because a lot of people maybe can stay longer, which I would like to do, but I can't. I have an appointment, so I have.
Okay, if it's 25 minutes, I'm gonna call Suzanne next and then you, so that if you want to read something again, that'd be great.
All right. I am a huge fan of public libraries. I think they are the most amazing places. They're like Christmas, Hanukkah, Ramadan, all the great holidays wrapped into one where you get presents. And the presents are this amazing variety of books. And I also appreciate them as one of the, feels like, few remaining public squares in our world today. And one of the things I appreciate most about public libraries is when I have the time and need something to read, I just go to the library and see what I find. So I'm going to read the poem Husqvarna, which is about that experience. And Husqvarna is it's a brand of chainsaw. And if you live in Olympia, and you drive down State Avenue by Lou Rents, they often have on their reader board Husqvarnas for sale. So this is Husqvarna. And the epigraph is, I never try to pry too deeply into where the real source of the pleasure might be. And maybe that's the secret of it. And that's by Hans Mittig. Jutting suggestively from a display shelf, an odd book entices me one Saturday afternoon at the public library. Norwegian wood, coal, chopping, stacking, drying, the Scandinavian way. I am neither Norwegian, nor have I ever chopped wood. What I have is an unusual chunk of time free for possibilities. After 3 walk-bys, I check the book out. Home, I cleave it open, expecting paragraphs as dense as Norwegian coastal fog. Instead, I am transported to a magical land of wood piles in geometric patterns, mosaics of gigantic fish, and the king and queen of Norway in colors of birch, spruce, pine. Advice on selecting chainsaws and the virtues of seasoning and fire. Each night I whittle away at the endearing book, make pages of notes on quotes and metaphors, how our bodies warm more thoroughly with wood than any other source except love. I could go on with analogies between wood and our very human lives, tout the health benefits, argue environmental impacts, but what I really want to say is this: delight comes in many textures. Be open to them all.
That's lovely.
Well,
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, Ricker.
Yeah, so in Vermont, we call that Husqvarna, and the other one is steel, the chainsaw. And I have chopped a lot of wood, so I appreciate it. And Norwegian wood is also the novel Murakami, Japanese novelist, very, very interesting writer and candidate for the Nobel Prize. I'm going to, let's see, what is it here? This is in the book. I want to read 3 short poems. They won't take just a couple of minutes. This is in the book, and it's got a New York flavor. It's called Morning Prayer. I wake up early, intent to pray, but I just say, oy vey. It's not for show. It's what I know. What's in my head when I get out of bed, a sense of dread. I should say, hooray, ole, I'm alive, full of jive, ready to play. Not oy vey every day. I like to do it. I always knew it. It sets a tone, a little moan, to get me ready for life's hassles, all the rascals. If things work out, I'll give a shout. But if it's sad and things go bad, it's okay too. I won't stay blue. Just chase it away at the end of the day with another oy vey. And those kinds of poems just appear in my head. I don't really do rhyming poems, but I have a few of them. This is from another Mudflat book. It's called TikTok. It's my first poetry book. And some years ago here in Surabaya, I was teaching at a school, and my students a lot of people go to Singapore on the holidays. This is called Asia Air Flight 8501. In a high-rise hotel in Surabaya, a quiet week, waiting like so much of life. My wife makes miniatures of snacks in clay for jewelry ideas, and I download Nordic Noir, a trip to the gym to stay the decline. I dream more vividly than I live, solving problems there I couldn't fathom awake, and feel stupid against it all. Can a thunderclap blow you out of the sky, fair weather friend? On our daughter's phone, I see portraits of 4 handsome young men in the virility of youth, whose bloated bodies, one by one, are now delivered up home for the holidays. That's kind of a hard poem. But this is a short one and try to change the mood a little bit. Early AM. Thank you, bird, for zooming past my head so close, reminding me that there is energy and purpose to this life. Despite my eyes on my feet plotting the road and vagrant thoughts locked in between my ears, the world out there is full of beating life. That bird who knows me, in any case, knows that and points me to it. Thank you.
Bird in a bat.
I think
Yeah.
Oy Vey was my favorite poem in the anthology. It's playful and silly and dead serious at the same time.
Which was it?
The Oy Vey.
Thank you very much, Dan. Have a lot
Victor,
more
I'm
to-
so glad you were able to be here again today. It's a little more sane time for you this time. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, I believe.
Yeah, it's fine. And last time, I'll always make the effort, but it took me about 2 days to recover. It's sort of like jet lag.
It's midnight, yeah, that,
Yeah, and then, yes, and the next day, and I don't sleep very well and like that. So anyway, thank you for listening to me. Appreciate it.
thank you. Okay, let's see, Lene and Valerie and Kathleen all were here before and hope you'll all read something again.
Yes, we will.
Okay, you spoke first. I guess that means you get to go first.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
All right. I guess I should have said I live down in Pomona, California.
I'm sorry, I gotta go.
Oh, Dan, okay,
Bye.
I'm glad you were here.
Was it
Bye-bye.
Pomona?
Well, I guess for Alec, I'll read Near Eastabuchie, Mississippi.
Mhm.
Private. It will be recorded and maybe monitored. If you believe this should be a private. He really likes that poem, I think.
Yeah.
You said so.
Me too.
Anyway, I lived for a while and grew up for a while, lived a while in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, but I grew up in Jackson, really. But near Hattiesburg, Mississippi is a little town called East Butchie, which is an Indian name, and my grandparents had a farm there. And near it is a piece of land where there's an old house and a pond, and I was always told that sometime in the past, a young boy had drowned in this pond, not this poem, but he drowns in the poem too. So I thought of that for many years, and finally in 1970, I wrote a poem about it. This was the family that lived there was named the Guns, Gun, Gun. Okay, this poem is near East Butchie, Mississippi, and it begins with the words, "This pond, a gray man-made cup sunk in a field surrounded by pines. That child we know fell from the bitterweed edge, floated that day, threshed, and sank as if flying. He looked up certainly and saw his cries become silver globes as the sky was whirled and sucked into flawed milk glass, a dense congealment of light, water, breath. None of us ever knew this child except as his drowning relates to our own curdled vision of death. We can even think of him as recall to some prenatal world of dream. Say he faded, painless, insane with the pressuring quiet, a syrup of pine close, cricketless green, the turgid center of our eye. But what would all of that mean? Now we walk toward the trees. Near the path, the old gun place slants through the weeds. A gnarled gray house shows its ribs as its builders might, lying in the earth. Split shingles invite the thick moss to thread the roof over. The porch is crumbled into the field. Kudzu snarls around the outhouse. Should we care what this ruin held? The Guns, no faces. They were born here, and too quickly we can categorize their lives. How they axed out the trees, saw the gravel roads mire, and the cows swell with their calves and disease. Watched the gray pet and clabber girl signs flake in the heat and lean. We admit that the sky they breathed was blue, clean, smelling like earth and the Genesis they read and believed. But some of us probably will think of plowing sweat, green bitter milk, mason jar whiskey and knives, or a black man naked and tied being hanged from a tall scaly pine. Our child, that unscaly thing, slid out. But the Guns who lived here had seen 78 years worth of something he avoided, and we, in our way, think we have too. Could their death have been fluid then? What was it like? A collage of this house, briars and sweat in a black scripture of pine needles and dung. What would you say of it? Like the door of the outhouse meshed over with kudzu, you inside, your stinks feeding the green. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Lene, are you there and would you like to read?
I'm here. Hello.
There she is.
I was gonna read Magical Places. Did I give you that one for this anthology?
Um,
I think I did.
No. Well, let's see.
Unless you have the list in front of you, because I haven't picked my copy up yet, and I just don't have it in front of me. So
No, it's not in there.
okay, do you have something you Want me to read from the anthology, Gabby?
It
Not
doesn't have to be
necessarily.
whatever you'd like to share.
Do you want me to do Hummingbird? Did I give you Hummingbird?
You read that
Mhm.
one last time. And
Oh, I did.
yeah.
That's the only one I can remember that I gave. What else? You can tell me what else. I could look it up real quick.
Well, you read Hummingbird and in the book Eulogy for America, which is pretty long.
Yeah.
Favorite Plant, which is also pretty long.
Tiamat.
Tiamat. And I think that's it.
Okay, we can do Tiamat. I got that right next to me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I almost got that remembered, but let me grab it real quick. That's page. There we go. All right. In the beginning was nothing, a great emptiness. Even darkness, sky, stars, and earth were born from it. All comes from and returns to her. The womb and torus of life. In the beginning was mystery, psyche, thought. Even before sparks sound song, heavenly lips poured harmony into existence. That skill, weaving flow from the abyss, is creation. In the beginning was nothing, and the nothing was goddess, and she birthed everything, just as women have for all of humanity. She is highest. Mother of God, Queen of Queens, forever, hallelujah, the creator of time. In a day she gives life. A goddess is blessed with blood. For a week stays alive in her holy month. She brings energy, renewal, changing her outfit, decorations, diapers, and the sheets, rising and falling with each phase of the moon, change of the tide, season of the year, sacred time, her months. 13 true as the blood of life that made you. Goddess has the power to choose to spend 9 months of existence how she wants to, or not. Life, death, hers. Women created time, counting days on bones until her next flow, until the sun who always leaves you in the cold returns. Hell, Satan, underworld, Hades, the darkness was lovely before you started threatening people to be trapped there. Everything comes from the void. She is powerful, all encompassing, holds you, lifts all, was mighty before giving birth to God. Goddess creates life from darkness, heals the greatest pain, blends medicines, gathers herbs, berries, was the first midwife, doctor, and undertaker. As men brought warriors from the hunt, wars, bleeding, pestilent lands. Women were the first OBGYNs, surgeons, pharmacists, healers before men invented what? Please, wisdom, knowledge, Sophia, growth, abundance, harvest, cornucopia, beauty, love, life, harmony. Everything good and holy is the name of a goddess. Women birth every dream, seed, meal, treatment. There was only ever one holy mother. The sun, all-powerful Ra, should thank her for his birth, for she is pleased with her son. No man or God can create or destroy a universe that continually builds and destroys itself, just like a woman. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, it was birthed, it will die, it will be reborn, just as all you have ever seen. As a tree grows, falls, feeds the next generation, that is the torus of existence, life, creation. We come from the darkness of the mother. We return to the darkness of soil. We are forever held by the darkness of space. She is massive. She is all encompassing. Goddess giveth and taketh away. So God bless the queen and every queen that came from her. Tiamat, Inanna, Ishtar, Lakshmi, Rupal, Danu, Ma'at, Kuan Yin, Freya, Asherah, Pele, Ain, Beyonce, Hera, Hecate, Stevie Nicks, Morgan, Lilith, Oshun, Marsha B. Johnson. Every monarch, Parntist, state, idea, word was born from the All-Mother. In the beginning was Goddess. She creates everything, and everything returns to her. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Can you tell my grandpa was a Baptist preacher or that my grandma was a choir director?
I'm not gonna say
I don't know if they're rolling in their graves or clapping, but you know, once you get to the other side, things look different. So who knows? but yeah, I feel like it's my Genesis antithesis, but it's also my my lifelong study of worldwide folklore and theology and all kinds of worlds. creation goddesses. I found even just recently, because I never stopped studying this topic, there's an African creator goddess named Allah, ALA. So I'm just like, you know what? The deeper that you dig and the deeper that you learn, even the main artistic metaphor is that darkness, that yin, that feminine, that giving birth. And I feel like patriarchy is getting to be a delusion at this point, and we're getting away from all that loving goodness, kindness, abundance, the fruit of life and community, and all of those type of things are made fun of now. And we need to go back to matriarchy and goddess and some indigenous culture, at least a little bit, at least some more in our art. So anyway, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathleen.
No, I read last time. I think I'm gonna pass and listen to others.
I
Okay.
gotta go, so
Okay,
thank you very
Rickard,
much.
thank you,
See-
Rickard, for being here.
Love to be with you another time. Thank you all.
We
Bye,
might
thank
do
you.
this again. And I feel the same as Kathleen. I read last time my one poem that's in the book and my one poem that I've written in the last 50 years. So I think I just want to open it up for questions, discussion. And at some point I will turn off the recording, and those of us who want to hang out a little bit can just visit without thinking about it being recorded. Is there anybody who wants to comment or ask questions?
Gabby says, "Oy vey," sometimes.
She does.
Oy vey. I just want to say that I appreciate this group. It's nice. It's nice to have an hour and a half of, a small group of us reading to each other, and the anthology that's brought together many people from different stages of Gabby and Alex's life, I guess I would say. So it's interesting to me. There's quite a few that have the history of growing up in the South and having education together in the South, and it's interesting. It's just and then we've got our crew in the Pacific Northwest here. So I think it's been nice just to have that variety and hearing people read their own works, and just having a nice discussion as well as the readings of the poems. So I just appreciate that. You bumped the neighborhood association annual meeting, so and I don't regret it. So that's
Yeah,
good.
we've enjoyed both times, and I think it's really good that we broke it into two different times, because if we had had everybody from both ones here at the same time, it might have been overwhelming.
Yeah.
Here we get to talk more with each other.
And plus,
Yeah.
there are people like Rickard that, he was here at midnight the first time and wanted to be here because he feels isolated, and it makes him connect with people in a way that he loved, but it also meant he was exhausted afterwards. So this one was a little saner at 9 o'clock in the morning. And Ann Nair is in the Virgin Islands, so she, for her it's more, I think it's same as New York time. And anyway,
That's my time too.
yeah. Yep. Well, I think I'm going to turn off the recording, and then we can just visit a little more. Thank you for joining us, whoever is watching this. And